Have you heard of girl math? For example, you buy something, you return it, and because you returned it, now you have extra money. So you go buy a treat for yourself. Girl math. Now, have you heard of diaspora math? Specifically, African diaspora math. Now, this is a tricky one because this is when your dignity gets paid before your rent does. That's what I call diaspora math. When your dignity gets paid before your rent does. I grew up watching my mom stretch $1 into 12 emotions. Bills were overdue, no problem. We'll just wire money to Ghana so nobody thinks we're struggling. Which was interesting and weird because I know a lot of people send money home because they need to take care of their family, but in our case, we didn't. In our case, it was more of a personal thing that my mom was trying to do. And I think this is a case for healing your own wounds before you have kids or you bring other people in your life, because then you do things that impact their lives too, but you're so caught up in your own stuff. I was born in the US, but I lived in Ghana for a little bit, and I came back to the US when I was maybe about 6 or 7 years old. And when I was in Ghana, I had my own room. I had all this space. It was just a great time. And when I moved to the US, I moved to the Bronx. I moved to a 1 bedroom apartment with 5 other people. I went from having my own room to 3 other people in the room with me. So that was already a shock. And even though that was a shock, I don't think I started defining my philosophy on debt and all that stuff, or my money habits. But as I continued living there, I realized that my mom was a breadwinner in the family. My mom is also visually impaired or blind, which meant that my brother and I read most, if not all, of the bills because my father was not reading the bills. So we did that. And because of that, we saw the credit card debt, we saw the past due, we saw the overdraft fees. And it was interesting because in addition to that, we were also the ones that were cooking and whatnot in the house and in the apartment. And we would like give my mom her plate or whatever, and she'd be like, oh, if you were God, no one would eat, or something like that. And I share this to say I'm not sure if it was just literally a lack of visibility. I'm not sure what it was, but it was just kind of like in her mind everything was dandy, and we would go to the store and my brother and I would know that we could not spend a certain amount because that was not in the bank account, and she would just be like, yeah, buy whatever. And if we said no because we were worried about money, she would be upset. It was really interesting. Because of that, I grew up very hyper aware of money, of having money, of not having money. And so much so that it was interesting because on paper, we were doing very, very well. But because all the money was being sent elsewhere, in reality, we had nothing. And then also, my mom had a credit card. She had a number of credit card debt. So a lot of money was spent paying off that debt. And then from there, like there was a storage unit. So there's all these things that was taking money away. And as she paid them off, 'cause at some point she started paying them off, she would then repurpose that money back to Ghana. So that was always really, really interesting. And for me, I was just like, okay, credit card debt is bad. Not planning for your present and your future at the same time is bad. These are some of the things that kind of just cemented in my brain very early on. And it's pretty much how my environment shaped my relationship with money and how I then move forward. So fast forward to my adult life, I always made it a point not to have debt. So I use credit cards now, but that's a story. So I used to not believe in credit cards, but I use credit cards now, but I'm never rolling over that. I have a savings, emergency, I invest. I paid off all my student loan debt. I took a 1 year sabbatical. There's so many things that I've achieved in my life. And I really, in a weird way, credit it to my childhood. Because if I didn't go through that much financial strain, I wouldn't have decided at a very early age to figure out finances for myself, because I knew I did not want to miss meals. I really like to eat. Actually, I got my first 2 jobs at 14, and part of that was because I just wanted to try different foods, right? And not worry about money. So money is interesting, and I want to do this series where I'm just going to break down the ways that I've been able to achieve the financial success, even though I didn't have a great start, and just what it also does. And I won't get into the psychology of this, but like being a child who has to grow up quickly and support adults in quote unquote adult things, right? Learning very early credit cards, debt, interest rates, and everything definitely taught me so much. And Also knowing just because you make a certain amount on paper does not mean that it translates to a certain type of life. You have to translate whatever your income is into the life that you want, meaning that if you're not making enough money for the life that you want, then you need to then find ways to bring in extra. It's a new job, whether that's a side hustle, etc., but you need to bring in that income to match that. Or if you're already receiving a salary and income that for all intents and purposes, should be great and you should be thriving, but you're not, then it's also up to you to look at that and say, hey, where am I doing too much, and scale back, but it's really and truly your job. Because that tension between on paper and the money that's actually available, it's really jarring as well. I'm just going to share my story with you from literally going from a household where I was missing meals, overdraft, and all the way to like owning my own home as a single woman. I think it's an important message to share and to put out. And as a child, reading past due bills, like the tangible stress that comes from it, right? Having one parent as the main breadwinner, and what that means for understanding of job security at an early age. I talk a lot about being nimble in your career and optionality, because I'm aware of how being able to adapt to moving times really does truly impact your earning potential and your income, right? So wanted to talk about that. But I think it's going to be a good series, and I would love to hear from you all. What is your money story? Like, what has been happening in your life? How do you perceive money? Are you someone who saves? Are you someone who doesn't look at your bank account? How do you feel about credit cards? Like, I'm also just curious about that as well, because for the longest time I didn't love credit cards, but I've learned just how much you can utilize credit cards. So I'm excited about that. Reach out. I want to hear what your questions are. I want to hear what your concerns are. I want to hear what maybe you're trying to overcome right now in your own journey with money, because it is so crucial that we understand money in this economy, because things are just every day's a new thing, right? So if you have the capital to give yourself options, why not do that? I'm a big believer in giving yourself options. So that's really what the series is all about. And it's just, making sure that we're all on the same page with what we want in our lives, and we don't allow any stories that we tell ourselves to hold us back. So, alrighty. I will let you all go now, but I will see you tomorrow. And tomorrow we are going to get into just what it meant to be a child missing meals, reading bills, and becoming pretty much the household problem solver. It's like the epitome, is the description of immigrant daughter. So I will see you tomorrow.